There are moments in motherhood that divide your life into before and after. For me, it was a Tuesday afternoon. I was looking for a recipe on our family computer when I saw the browser tabs my son had forgotten to close. How to know if you're gay. What does it mean to be gay at 12? Coming out stories for kids. My hands froze on the mouse. My heart started racing. And in that instant, everything I thought I knew about my child, about myself, shattered. If you're listening to this, maybe you've had your own Tuesday afternoon. Maybe you've noticed something. A comment, a gesture, a preference, something that made your stomach drop. Maybe you're scared. Maybe you're confused. Maybe you're ashamed that you're even scared at all. I was all of those things. But what I learned in the months that followed changed not just my relationship with my son, but who I am as a mother, as a person. This is the story of how I almost lost my child by trying to protect him, and how I found him again by learning to truly see him. Let me take you back 6 months before that Tuesday. My son, I'll call him Jake, was 12. Bright, sensitive, a little shy. He loved drawing, hated sports, preferred reading to roughhousing. I told myself these were just personality traits. I was proud of raising a gentle boy in a world that demands toughness from men. But there were moments. Small moments I'd pushed away. The way he'd linger on certain characters in movies. How he never talked about girls the way his friends did. The time I caught him watching a makeup tutorial and he slammed the laptop shut, face burning red. I'd laughed it off. Just curious, I told myself. Kids explore everything these days. I considered myself progressive. I had gay friends. I voted for equality. But when it came to my own child, I realized I'd built an entire future in my mind. College, a nice girl, grandchildren. I'd never questioned whether that future was his dream or mine. The signs had been there for months, maybe years. But we see what we're ready to see, don't we? Jake had stopped inviting friends over. He'd become quieter at dinner. When I asked about his day, I got one-word answers. I blamed it on puberty, on screens, on middle school drama. There was one afternoon. I remember it so clearly now. He asked me, "Mom, do you think it's okay to be different?" I was folding laundry. I didn't even look up. "Of course, honey, everyone's different." He paused, like he wanted to say more. Then he just nodded and left the room. I didn't follow him. I didn't ask what he really meant. That moment haunts me now. The moment he reached out, and I was too distracted to catch him. And then came that Tuesday. I stared at those search results for what felt like hours, but was probably 30 seconds. My first instinct wasn't love or compassion. It was panic. What will people think? What will his father say? What about his future? Will he be bullied? Will he be safe? And underneath all of that, a question I was ashamed to even think. Did I do something wrong? I closed the tabs. I cleared the history. I pretended I'd never seen it. But you can't unsee the truth. That night at dinner, I couldn't look at him without seeing those search terms. Every gesture felt like confirmation. Every word felt loaded. And Jake, he knew something had shifted. He could feel me watching him. I told myself I needed more information. I started watching him like a detective. How he walked, how he talked, who he texted. I listened outside his door. I checked his phone when he was in the shower. I was looking for proof. But proof of what? That my son was who he was? Or proof that I was wrong? That this was all a misunderstanding? I didn't tell anyone. not my husband, not my best friend, not my sister. I felt like I was carrying a secret that wasn't even mine to carry, and the weight of it, the isolation, it was crushing. I'd lie awake at night, running through scenarios. Maybe it's just a phase. Maybe he's confused. Maybe it's the internet, all these influences. I was bargaining with reality. Here's what nobody tells you. You can believe in equality and still be terrified when it's your child. You can support LGBTQ rights and still grieve the future you'd imagined. That doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. But it also means you have work to do. I started researching late at night. Articles about childhood sexuality, coming out, parenting LGBTQ kids. And with every article, I felt two things at once: relief that there were resources, and terror at what they confirmed. This was real. This wasn't going away. My son might actually be gay. And then came the shame. Shame that I was scared. Shame that part of me wished I'd never found those search results. Shame that I was more worried about what my mother-in-law would say than about what my son was going through. I was failing him, and I knew it. But I didn't know how to stop. I finally told my husband 3 weeks after I found the search history. We were in bed, lights off. I couldn't say it looking at him. I think Jake might be gay. Silence. Then, why would you think that? I told him about the searches. More silence. Then, he's 12. He doesn't know what he is yet. Let's not make a big deal out of nothing. Part of me wanted to agree, to let it drop. But I couldn't. What if it's not nothing? What if he needs us? My husband sighed. Then we'll deal with it when the time comes. But we're not going to put ideas in his head. That phrase, put ideas in his head, made my blood run cold. As if love could be suggested. As if identity could be implanted. We didn't talk about it again for weeks. And in that silence, I felt more alone than ever. And then one night, everything shifted. I went to say goodnight to Jake, and I heard him crying through the door. Not loud crying. The kind you do when you don't want anyone to hear. The kind that breaks a mother's heart. I stood there, hand on the doorknob, frozen. I wanted to go in. I wanted to hold him, but I was terrified of what he might say. Or what I might say wrong. I walked away. I went back to my room, and I lay there listening to my child cry alone. And I realized my fear was hurting him more than any truth ever could. I wasn't protecting him by staying silent. I was abandoning him. All my watching, all my worrying, all my secret research, none of it mattered if I couldn't show up for him when he needed me most. That was my turning point. Not toward acceptance. I wasn't there yet. But toward action. I couldn't keep hiding from this. I tried to fix things the wrong way first. I started forcing normal activities. Why don't you invite some friends over? Why don't you try out for the basketball team? There's a girl in your class who seems nice. Emma, right? Every suggestion felt like a test. And Jake knew it. He'd just shrug and retreat further into himself. I also tried the opposite approach, overcompensating. I bring up LGBTQ topics casually. Did you see that new show with the gay character? It's so good. Or, I was reading about Pride Month. So important. I thought I was being supportive, but I was really just making him more uncomfortable. He could feel my agenda. What I didn't understand then was that he didn't need me to fix anything or prove anything. He needed me to just be present, to be safe, to be steady. But I was too caught up in my own fear to see that. The crisis came on a Sunday. Jake had been in his room all day. When I called him for dinner, he didn't come. I went upstairs and knocked. Jake, dinner's ready. Nothing. I opened the door. He was curled up on his bed, face to the wall. I'm not hungry. His voice was flat, empty. Jake, you need to eat. I said I'm not hungry. I felt frustration rising. This attitude needs to stop. I don't know what's going on with you, but... And then he turned around. His eyes were red and swollen. His face was a mixture of anger and desperation. You don't know? Really, Mom? You don't know? My heart stopped. This was it. The moment I'd been dreading and avoiding. And I did the worst possible thing. I froze. I stood there in his doorway, silent, and watched him turn back to the wall. Just leave me alone, he whispered. And I did. I closed the door and walked away. Again. I sat on the stairs outside his room and I broke. I cried harder than I'd cried in years. Not for the future I'd imagined, but for the pain I was causing right now. My son was suffering, and I was making it worse. All my fear, all my questions, all my discomfort, none of it mattered compared to his pain. And then I heard my own mother's voice in my head, something she'd said when I was young. Love isn't about comfort. It's about showing up, especially when it's hard. I'd always thought I understood that, but I'd never really been tested. Until now. I realized I had a choice. I could keep protecting my own comfort, my own expectations, my own fear, or I could protect my child. And when I framed it that way, there was no choice at all. I stood up. I walked back to his door. I knocked softly. Jake, can I come in? Silence. Please, I need to talk to you. More silence. Then, quietly, it's open. I sat on the edge of his bed. He didn't look at me. My hands were shaking. I'd rehearsed this moment 100 times in my head, but now every word felt impossible. So I just started with the truth. I saw your search history a few weeks ago, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I didn't say anything. I was scared. I was confused. I didn't know what to say. But that's not your problem. That's mine. And I've been so focused on my own fear that I forgot the most important thing. You're my son, and you're hurting. And that's all that matters. He still didn't look at me, but I saw his shoulders start to shake. I know you might be going through something. I don't know exactly what, and you don't have to tell me until you're ready. But I need you to know this. I love you. I see you. And nothing will ever change that. Not who you love, not who you are, not anything. You're my son, and you are perfect exactly as you are. And then he turned to me, tears streaming down his face, and he whispered, I think I'm gay, Mom. I'm so scared. And I pulled him into my arms and I held him while he sobbed. I know, baby. I know. And it's going to be okay. We're going to be okay. That conversation didn't fix everything. It was just the beginning. Over the next weeks and months, we had a lot more talks. Some were hard. Some were beautiful. Jake opened up slowly, carefully, testing whether I really meant what I'd said. And I had to prove it over and over through action. I educated myself, really educated myself. I joined online support groups for parents of LGBTQ kids. I read books. I listened to stories. I confronted my own biases, the ones I didn't even know I had. And I talked to my husband. We went to therapy together. It wasn't easy, but we both committed to showing up for our son. Jake started smiling again. He started talking at dinner. He even brought a friend over, a boy from his art class. And when I saw them laughing together in the living room, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. If you're where I was, scared, confused, grieving a future you'd imagined, I want to share what I learned. First, your feelings are valid, but they're not your child's responsibility. Process them with other adults, not with your kid. Second, educate yourself. Don't make your child teach you everything. Third, listen more than you talk. Create space for them to share at their own pace. Fourth, examine your fears. Are you worried about your child's safety and happiness, or about what others will think? Be honest. Fifth, find community. You're not alone, and neither is your child. There are resources, support groups, other families who've walked this path. Sixth, apologize when you mess up. You will mess up. We all do. What matters is that you keep showing up. And finally, remember that your child is still your child. Their sexuality is one part of who they are, not the whole story. They still need your guidance, your boundaries, your love. Don't treat them like they're fragile or broken. They're not. They're just becoming who they've always been. It's been a year since that Tuesday afternoon. Jake is 13 now. He's more confident, more himself. He came out to a few close friends. He's even talking about joining the GSA at school. And me? I'm a different mother than I was a year ago. I'm braver. I'm humbler. I'm more aware of how much I still have to learn. I won't lie and say it's been easy. There are still moments of fear. Fear for his safety, in a world that isn't always kind. But that fear doesn't paralyze me anymore. It motivates me to be the parent he needs, to advocate for him, to create a home where he never has to hide. If you're listening to this and you're scared, I want you to know, the fear is temporary, but the love is forever. Your child needs you to be brave, and you can be. I promise you, you can be. Because love, real, unconditional love, is the most powerful force there is, and it's already inside you. You just have to let it lead.